Hello, everyone. I'm back from my vacation in Cartagena, Colombia, and I'm ready for another poetry reading session. Skipping a week due to that vacation with the family. There were some vicissitudes in our return travel that caused me to have to give up what should have been my next session. Last weekend, plane travel is not without its complications. And anybody who's done that recently will, I'm sure, agree with me. But I hope you are a forgiving bunch and perhaps glad to have your own vacation time from poetry reading. While I was in the fabulous and historical old city of Cartagena, it was the main stopping place where the Spanish galleons came to load up with the mostly stolen gold from South and Central America to transport it back to Spain, where it was quickly spent to glorify the court of the Spanish monarchs at the time, as well as to pay for the 100 Years' War and other European follies. I read Gabriel Garcia Marquez's book, Love and Other Demons, while I was there, as well as getting a good start on his masterpiece, 100 Years of Solitude, which I have finished in the week that I've been back. And it's no wonder he won a Nobel Prize with the latter book, which is really like a prolonged prose poem. The term magical realism was used to describe his style, and he readily admits that his grandmother used to tell stories in that style, so perhaps we should give credit to her. And I urge you all to read one of his books if you haven't already done so. The English translations are very good, and my Spanish is very bad. So I decided to read some Latin American poems today. As a rule, I'm not a fan of translations, but some of them are very adept. But I found a Latin American poet who writes in English. She was brought up and taught English at an early age in Puerto Rico, and her name is Judith Ortiz Cofer. The first poem I'm going to read is called Quinceanera. What that means is 15th birthday celebration where Latin Catholic girls are said that they are told that they have to start being an adult. And this is all explained in the poem. Quinceanera. My dolls have been put away like dead children in a chest I will carry with me when I marry. I reach under my skirt to feel a satin slip bought for this day. It is soft as the inside of my thighs. My hair has been nailed back with my mother's black hairpins to my skull. Her hands stretched my eyes open as she twisted braids into a tight circle at the nape of my neck. I am to wash my own clothes and sheets from this day on, as if the fluids of my body were poison, as if the little trickle of blood I believe travels from my heart to the world were shameful. Is not the blood of saints and men in battle beautiful? Do Christ's hands not bleed into your eyes from his cross? At night I hear myself growing and wake to find my hands drifting of their own will to soothe skin stretched tight over my bones. I am wound like the guts of a clock, waiting for each hour to release me. That's Quinceanera by Judith Ortiz, Cofer. And I think it's quite an excellent poem. And it kind of explains something about the Latin mentality and the way they think about things. Well, here's another Cofer poem that I liked quite a bit. I was attracted to it because it repeats to some extent and reinforces the images that I found in the work of Marquez. And he has in his book, 100 Years of Solitude, a family, the Buendia family. And they had a house and a pianola which almost exactly reproduces the central scene in this poem. Women Who Love Angels by Judith Ortiz, Cofer. They are thin and rarely merry, living out their long lives in spacious rooms, French doors giving view to formal gardens where aromatic flowers grow in profusion. They play their pianos in the late afternoon, tilting their heads at a gracious angle, as if listening to notes pitched above the human range. Age makes them translucent, each palpitation of their hearts visible at the temple or neck. When they die, it's in their sleep, their spirits shaking gently loose from a hostess too well bred to protest. Now that comes from a book that she wrote and published in 1993 called The Latin Deli. And it was published by the University of Georgia Press. Okay, those are the poems by Judith Ortiz Cofer, which I really like because they seem to perfectly state the mood and place of South American stories and poems. It sounds like the South America that I have encountered on my 2 trips there. But they do so in English, making it flow for the English speaker as no translation could do. Perhaps the most famous South American poet was Pablo Neruda. Pablo Neruda was a Chilean, and like a lot of the Latin American poems, he was a very left-wing character. And let's face it, he was a communist, but he was still a good poet. I picked this poem because it recounts an experience most of us have had, but with a distinctive Latin perspective. The title of this poem is A Dog Has Died. My dog has died. I buried him in the garden next to a rusted old machine. Someday I'll join him right there, but now he's gone with his shaggy coat, his bad manners, and his cold nose, and I, the materialist, who never believed in any promised heaven in the sky for any human being, I believe in a heaven I'll never enter. Yes, I believe in heaven for all dogdom, where my dog waits for my arrival, waving his fan-like tail in friendship. I'll not speak of sadness here on earth, of having lost a companion who was never servile. His friendship for me, like that of a porcupine withholding its authority, was the friendship of a star aloof, with no more intimacy than was called for, with no exaggerations. He never climbed all over my clothes, filling me full of his hair or his mange. He never rubbed up against my knee like other dogs obsessed with sex. No, my dog used to gaze at me, paying me the attention I need, the attention required to make a vain person like me understand that, being a dog, he was wasting time. But with those eyes so much purer than mine, he'd keep gazing at me with a look that reserved for me alone all his sweet and shaggy life. Always near me, never troubling me, and asking nothing. How many times have I envied his tail as we walked together on the shores of the sea. In the lonely winter of Isla Negra, where the wintering birds filled the sky, and my hairy dog was jumping about full of the voltage of the sea's movement, my wandering dog, sniffing away with his golden tail held high, face to face with the ocean spray. Joyful, 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 as only dogs know how to be happy, with only the autonomy of their shameless spirit. There are no goodbyes for my dog who has died, and we don't now and never did lie to each other. So now he's gone and I buried him. And that's all there is to it. What more needs to be said? I hope you enjoyed our selections today. I'm really glad to be back here at the mic once again, and I hope you'll be listening next weekend. I don't know what the subject will be. I hardly ever do a week in advance. But it'll be something that interests me, and I think, and I hope, will interest you too. Thanks for listening, and adios, amigos.